Dissertation writing is a prerequisite for every student pursuing degree in higher institution. With the little knowledge I have been assisting a lot of students with their dissertation writing. As a result of that, many of them have been reaching out to me. Please, sir, I want you to help me. I want to know how to write a dissertation. Ironically, 90% of students graduating in higher institutions cannot even account to all the components that makes up the chapters of a dissertation. So I want to take you through the dissertation framework. First, you need to understand that a framework is a basic structure underlying a system, a concept, or a text. So before I take you through the entire dissertation framework, I want to tell you what the dissertation itself is made up of. Dissertation generally is divided into 4 broader components. We have the preliminary chapters, which we can also call the pre-chapters. We have the chapters, the references or bibliography, and the appendix. So quickly, let me take you through the components that makes up the pre-chapters, or we also call the preliminary chapters. So the first component of the preliminary chapter is called the title page. So on the title page is where you state your topic, your name, your ID number, your institution, and also the degree that you are pursuing and the date that you are going to submit your dissertation. The date normally goes with actually the month and the year, because you cannot be specific with the actual day of submission. The second component of the pre-chapters is the certification. The certification is where the supervisor certifies that your work is authentic and it has gone through his or her helpful and strict supervision, and it is normally followed by a signature of the supervisor. The other component we can consider is the declaration. So this is where you, the student, declares that your work is authentic and that it was not plagiarized and that it has been supervised by your supervisor, and it is also normally followed by your signature. The other component we consider for the pre-chapter is the dedication. It is not compulsory to include the dedication in your pre-chapters, but this is where you dedicate the work, the entire dissertation, to someone special that have helped you greatly. Normally, some people can tend to dedicate the entire dissertation to their parents, or let's say to the Almighty God, for his guidance throughout your work. That is what we call the dedication. So after the dedication comes the acknowledgement. This is where the student acknowledges everybody that contributed to his entire dissertation work. The student actually references or acknowledges everybody that have helped throughout his course of study. Not only with the dissertation writing, note this, but anybody that have contributed immensely in assisting you are going to acknowledge that individual. So after the acknowledgement comes the table of content. This is actually where you're going to list all the main components and sub-components included in your dissertation along with their page number. The reason why the table of content is necessary is simply because it enables the student to easily navigate, or anybody reading your work to easily navigate through the dissertation. I want to quickly access chapter 1. I'll just look through the table of content, watch the page number, then I can turn to chapter 1. So that is the other component that we consider under the pre-chapters. We can also move to the other components that we call list of tables and list of figures. Of course, after collecting your data, you do your data analysis. You are going to do data presentation, and after that, you interpret and discuss your findings. That makes up the chapter 4. So you are going to list all the tables that are presented in chapter 4, and probably some aspect of your methodology. In chapter 3, you are also going to have a table where you have your population and samples, and make sure you list that table. So that is what we include under the list of tables, along with the page numbers, where you can find the tables that you've presented in your dissertation. So similar to the list of tables, we have the list of figures, all the figures that are going to be presented, including your conceptual framework under your chapter 2, maps that you're going to insert under your methodology, and also your chapter 4. All the figures that you insert to interpret and discuss your findings, referencing those figures, are required to be listed. And when these figures are listed, generally now we include them also part of the pre-chapters. We call them list of figures. In some cases as well, we can include a component called the acronyms. all acronyms used in your research. For example, WHO, the meaning; FAO, the meaning; UNDP, the meaning. But this actually is not compulsory, but in some instances or some cases, you can include the acronyms. So the last component for the pre-chapters is called the abstract. The abstract is actually a summary of your entire dissertation from chapter 1 to chapter 5. It is normally considered a standalone section. The abstract, you include in summary the background or context, the objectives, the methodology that you employed in carried out the research, your result and discussion, and also your conclusion and recommendation. Most people can not have the time to go through your chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but with your abstract, you can understand entirely what your dissertation is about.